Brothers Henry and Tom had just made what they believed to be the purchase of a lifetime. It was a sprawling piece of land on the outskirts of town, secluded yet close enough to civilization to be practical. Their dream was to build a home of their own, a sanctuary where they could live surrounded by nature, away from the noise and chaos of the city. The land had come to them through an online auction at an unbelievably low price. They'd joked about it being too good to be true, but their excitement outweighed any doubts. On a crisp autumn morning, they set off to visit their new property for the first time, eager to see what they'd bought. As they drove up the long, unpaved road leading to their plot, anticipation buzzed in the air. The brothers imagined the possibilities: a spacious house, a vegetable garden, maybe even a small barn. But as they approached the land, something unexpected came into view. Standing in the middle of the property was a shed.
But before we start, smash the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our upcoming stories.
It was old and weathered, its rusty metal roof barely clinging to the walls. The structure had not been mentioned in the property listing, nor marked on the map they received after the purchase. Henry and Tom exchanged puzzled looks as they parked their car and stepped out onto their new land. The two brothers walked cautiously toward the building. Weeds and vines had grown over its walls, and the large double doors at the front were secured with a heavy chain and padlock. Henry circled the shed, looking for another entrance, while Tom inspected the lock. Tom grinned. "You've been dying for an excuse to play handyman. Go for it." Henry scanned the area and quickly found a steel pipe jutting out of a pile of rubble nearby. Using the pipe as a makeshift lever, he twisted and pulled against the chain. It took several attempts, but with a loud snap, the chain broke. "Nice work," Tom said, patting his brother on the back. Together, they heaved the heavy doors open, revealing the interior of the shed. The air inside was damp and stale, carrying the scent of mildew and decay. Sunlight filtered in through cracks in the roof, casting eerie beams across the cluttered space. The shed appeared untouched for decades. Shelves lined the walls, covered in mold, and tools lay scattered across the floor, rusted beyond recognition. But what caught their attention were the large wooden boxes stacked in the back corner. Inside the first box, they found stacks of old documents, faded photographs, and what appeared to be a blueprint. The photographs depicted a stern-looking man with a handlebar mustache, a woman in a corset, and a young girl holding a doll. The clothing and style suggested these images were from the late 19th century. Henry unfolded the blueprint and studied it closely. It depicted a large house with detailed rooms and corridors. One detail caught his eye: a small hand-drawn signature in the corner, encased in an upside-down triangle. The initials read RS. The discovery ignited a curiosity in the brothers that couldn't be ignored. They decided to dig deeper, determined to uncover the identity of RS and the history of their land. Their first stop was the local library, where they hoped to find records or archives that could shed light on their findings. Weeks passed with no response, and the brothers began to lose hope. Then, one morning, Tom received a phone call. The voice on the other end belonged to an elderly historian named Mr. Turner, who claimed to have information about RS. When Mr. Turner saw the blueprint the brothers had found, his eyes widened. "I have a similar blueprint," he said, retrieving a large sheet of paper from his archives. It was nearly identical to the brothers' blueprint, except for one key difference: the shed and its surrounding area were missing from Mr. Turner's version. The brothers returned to their property, their curiosity now bordering on obsession. They searched the shed meticulously, but nothing seemed out of place. Henry paced the floor in frustration, his footsteps echoing faintly. Then he noticed something unusual: certain parts of the floor sounded hollow. The brothers grabbed tools and pried up the floorboards, revealing a hidden compartment beneath the shed. Inside was a small, locked chest. Henry lifted it carefully, feeling the weight of its contents. When they opened the chest, they found an assortment of items: more documents, a journal, and a collection of gold coins. The journal, written in Robert Stevenson's hand, detailed his life, his achievements, his struggles, and his desire to leave a legacy for future generations. The final entry revealed something astonishing. Stevenson had hidden a fortune on the property, buried beneath a specific landmark described in the journal. Following the journal's instructions, the brothers located the landmark, a large oak tree near the edge of the property. They dug beneath its roots and unearthed a metal box containing bundles of cash, more gold coins, and a letter addressed to my descendants. The letter explained that Stevenson had foreseen the collapse of his wealth due to mismanagement by his heirs and had taken steps to ensure that his fortune would survive for future generations. The brothers were stunned to realize they were likely distant relatives of Robert Stevenson, connected by fate to the land they had purchased. A faint, hollow thud echoed through the quiet evening air, interrupting Henry's thoughts as he walked through the overgrown backyard of the old property. He paused, his heart quickening, and glanced around. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but the sound had been so distinct, so deliberate, that he couldn't shake it. For a moment, he stood still, his ears straining for any follow-up noise. When none came, he stamped his foot tentatively on the ground beneath him. The sound repeated, muted yet undeniable. A thrill of curiosity mixed with a twinge of doubt coursed through him. Was he imagining things? Henry's thoughts raced. This property, long rumored to hold secrets, had piqued his and his brother Tom's interest ever since they'd inherited it from their late uncle. It had seemed like little more than a dilapidated old shed in a patch of wild land, but now his imagination ran wild. Henry's pulse quickened. "We dig," he said simply. There was no need for further discussion. Both men were driven by a shared excitement they could barely contain. They grabbed what tools they could find: an old spade, a gardening fork, and began to claw at the dirt with fervor. After what felt like an eternity, their tools scraped against something solid. Both men paused, panting, their hands trembling with exertion and anticipation. Clearing away the last remnants of dirt, they revealed a wooden hatch embedded in the ground. Summoning all their strength, the brothers heaved together. With a groan and a burst of splintering wood, the hatch finally gave way, revealing a dark void below. A chill emanated from the opening, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and something unplaceable. He grabbed the rickety ladder that descended into the void and tested its strength before beginning his descent. The wood creaked ominously beneath his weight, but it held. He reached the bottom and looked around, but the darkness was impenetrable. The brothers stumbled forward, their hands outstretched to avoid collisions with unseen obstacles. The space was vast and eerily silent, their movements amplified by the echo of their footsteps. He rummaged in his pocket and pulled out a lighter. Flicking it repeatedly, he managed to produce a small, flickering flame. The faint light revealed enough of their surroundings to make out walls lined with shelves and an old oil lamp hanging from a hook. "Over here," Tom exclaimed, grabbing the lamp. Henry brought the lighter to the lamp's wick, and to their astonishment, the ancient oil ignited, casting a warm glow across the room. As the light filled the space, the brothers stood in stunned silence. The brothers exchanged a glance. "This has to be the secret room the historian mentioned," Tom said. Henry nodded, his mind racing. The historian had told them about Stevenson's enigmatic disappearance and the possibility of hidden clues that might reveal the truth about his life. Could this room be the key to solving the mystery? Eager to uncover more, the brothers began to search the room. They rifled through drawers, overturned cushions, and inspected every corner. Their efforts yielded little more than dust and cobwebs, until Henry's eyes landed on a large oil painting hanging on the wall. The portrait depicted Stevenson and his family, painted with meticulous detail. Henry's gaze lingered on Stevenson's features: the strong jawline, the sharp eyes. Something about the painting felt significant. "Look at this," Henry said, pointing to the bottom corner of the canvas. The initials RS were scrawled there, unmistakably the artist's signature. Tom's eyes narrowed as he studied the painting more closely. "Wait a second," he said, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Doesn't he look like us?" Henry's heart skipped a beat. Now that Tom mentioned it, the resemblance was striking. Stevenson's nose, the shape of his face, it all felt eerily familiar. Could he be our ancestor? Henry wondered aloud. They decided to investigate further. With great care, they removed the painting from the wall, half expecting to find a hidden compartment behind it. But the wall was bare. Disappointment threatened to overwhelm them, but then Henry noticed something odd. The edges of the painting's frame were scratched, as if they had been tampered with. "There's something hidden here," he said with conviction. Using a pocket knife, the brothers pried open the frame. After several tense minutes, their efforts were rewarded when a small key fell to the floor, along with an envelope sealed with wax. Henry picked up the envelope and tore it open. Inside was a letter, its ink faded but legible. As he read aloud, his voice trembled with excitement. The letter spoke of a hidden treasure, reserved for Stevenson's true heirs. It provided cryptic clues, urging the reader to trust their instincts. The brothers exchanged a glance, the weight of the discovery sinking in. With renewed determination, they returned to their search. The letter's clues led them to the old cabinet. After experimenting with its drawers, they heard a loud click. The cabinet itself swung open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was an ornate chest, its surface adorned with intricate carvings. The key fit perfectly in the lock. As the lid creaked open, the brothers gasped. The chest was filled with golden coins and ancient documents. Their journey didn't end there. Taking the treasure to the historian, they learned more about their connection to Stevenson and his legacy. The brothers decided to honor their ancestor by building a home on the property, modeled after Stevenson's original designs. Years later, the house became a family estate, complete with a museum dedicated to their discovery. The brothers' lives had been forever changed not just by the wealth they found, but by the connection they forged with their past.